You know how precons come with 2 commanders, a face commander and a bad one? I built a deck that has 7. Hi, I'm Michael Solani. If you think it's absolute madness to have 7 people with nothing in common all competing to be the head honcho, then I've gotta ask, have you met my fucking family? They make Little Miss Sunshine look like goddamn Bluey. But despite all the lying, cheating, backstabbing, and moisturizing, we still work together, goddammit, and that's the same for my deck. When you roll up to your pod rocking your cowboy boots, your 10-gallon hat, and this list, you've got 7 magnificent commander options to pick from, and they all radically change how the game plays. All you've got to do is pick the general for the game you want and put the others back in the deck. It's that easy. Here's your options. Satoru, the Infiltrator. A value engine and a half, he draws you a card every time a creature enters under your control without being cast or paid for. Believe me, once we get to the 99, you'll see how we trigger this condition non-stop, and at only 2 mana, you're never going to have a non-game with him at the helm. Tormod and Second Tormod. They're your go-wide pair. They create zombies every time a card leaves your graveyard. For the same reasons to Satoru, you'll be drowning in shambling, brain-dead corpses faster than you can say, "Welcome to the 2028 Republican National Convention." Gisa and Geralf, or Gisa and Geralf if you pronounce Jif wrong, are the typal commander for this list. We go hard on zombies, and being able to cast one from the graveyard every turn is spectacular for the deck's longevity. Now, Grimgrin's not only an all-important sack outlet in the command zone, he's also a massive Voltron attacker, who takes down enemy creatures when he scraps. There's going to be no shortage of fodder to throw into his hungry maw, and with the right political plays, you can make friends as easily as enemies. Volo and Ancient of the Iron Throne are the aristocrats pair for this deck. While not quite as overwhelming as Satoru, Volo can still draw a respectable amount of cards when you need it, since there's plenty of subtypes we can name on our zombies. Agent of the Iron Throne will whittle your opponents away as you sacrifice your creatures. Lord of the Nazgul's Spellslinger strategy capitalizes on the high number of instants in the deck to create even more token fodder. Get to 9 Wraiths and swing in for a kill. And finally, the Master, formed anew, goes for a combo finish by exiling 2 mysterious, specific kinds of creatures to create an infinite death loop. So that's it. 1 deck, 7 commanders. But how? How can one tiny thing support so many archetypes? Are we playing Metaphor Ray Fantasio right about now?
Is this what we've come to? Saying whatever's on our minds?
Well, one group of creatures actually work with all 7 strategies, those with Persist and Undying. Creatures with Persist and Undying return to the battlefield after they die with a -1/-1 or +1/+1 counter, respectively. If they bite it again while they still have their specific counter, they're gone for good. It's like they tried to cross the river Styx without an obol, and got bitched to the back of the line by a particularly nasty Karen. These creatures enter without being cast after they're murked, and so Satoru draws you cards. They leave the graveyard once they die, triggering Tormod. Most of these are zombies, so Gisa and Geralf can cast them again once they run out of juice. They're excellent sacrifice fodder for Grimgrin, and since they die twice, Agent of the Iron Throne gets twice the value out of their deaths. We can recharge Persist and Undying creatures with scam spells, so Lord of the Nazgul has plenty of opportunities to use instants in this deck. And obviously, if the Master, formed anew, can exile both a Persist creature and an Undying creature, all he has to do to go infinite is to switch between them with every single death. Now, specific creatures don't matter. Editor, put them all on screen for about 87 frames. Now to duck. No, what we actually care about are the cool synergies, and if you have any doubts about how one deck can support 7 commanders, behold the Synergy Zone.
Wow.
We've got all 7 commanders and sepia tone at the bottom of the screen, and whenever a card shows up, the relevant commanders will light up in glorious color vision. Let's start with counter removal. The cards on screen can all move or remove counters from creatures, and that's important because they refresh your Persist and Undying creatures. Remember, they only stay dead if they die with their specific counter, so if you steal that from them, they're as good as new. If you have both a Persist and Undying creature, try moving a +1/+1 counter to a creature with a -1/-1 counter. They'll annihilate each other in a big fiery ball, which you can walk away from without looking. We've got loads of great sack outlets here. Fane's already earned his spot with his counter removal, but he can also recycle your creatures into additional +1/+1 counters. Both altars will leave you with enough mana to cast whatever you want. Tarian's Journal and Yawgmoth sack creatures to draw you even more cards, and we've got loads of instants that do it too. Both Attrition and Stronghold Assassin kill enemy creatures. Carrion Feeder is a zombie that gets big. High Market, Phyrexian Tower, and Cesar Secundi Void Altar fulfill the role on lands. There's also some exploit creatures here, and guess what? They're both zombies. Recur one of your scam spells with Repository Scab, or draw cards with Fellstinger. Of course, Braid's Arisen Nightmare is Braids, and Pyre of Heroes can pod you into even better zombies. Speaking of zombies, let's talk about the Necroduality of Man. It creates a token copy of any non-token zombie that enters, including if it was persisted or undying. Zombie Master gives Zombie Swamp Walk, which is terrifying with Unstoppable Slasher. Diregraph Captain buffs all your dead guys and hits your opponent for psychic damage when they die. Geralf, the Fleshwright, not only makes token zombies when you cast more spells, he puts counters on any zombies that enter the battlefield. Hancock, Ghoulish Mayor, is an undying creature that also buffs your zombies based on how many counters he has. Accursed Duneyard regenerates your zombies, and Unholy Grotto recurs them to the top of the deck. There's more shit that triggers when stuff dies and comes back. Sir Conrad's double good here, since practically everything you sacrifice comes right back. Devil's Judgment gives you all sorts of value, including more card draw, treasure, and more zombies. Grave Pact absolutely murders boards in this deck, it's ridiculous. River Kelpie is another persist creature that draws you more cards when persist creatures come back, and good lord is Thrawn Vigil busted in this deck. It goes infinite with any persist creature, since it only triggers after that creature is back on the field, and therefore a legal target for the enchantment. You want my advice? Do everything you can to get this on the field alongside Glenelendra Archmage. For the big boys, there's a couple of ways to make things tough to block, too, like Rogue's Passage, Shizo, Death Storehouse, and Minas Morgul, Dark Fortress. A great example here is Jason Bright. He does everything, drawing cards, sacrificing creatures, synergizing with zombies, and giving the big boys flying. Now I know Lord of the Nazgul hasn't been lining up much here, but don't worry, Isochron Scepter combos with any of the sacrifice to draw card spells in the deck, or the scam spells, pick your poison. You can also throw Heartless Act under it to flip-flop between removing enemy creatures and refreshing your persisters. Kyrie, the Swirling Sky, basically lets you cast as many scams as you want. Just make it Feign Death, and then sacrifice it to mill 6 cards and return the Feign Death to your hand. And as if we didn't have enough, Poppet Stitcher creates even more zombies when you cast instants and sorceries too. Micaeus, the Unhallowed, gives all your other non-human creatures Undying. Creatures with both Persist and Undying basically always come back. If they've got a -1/-1 counter from Persist, then the Undying trigger will get them. And if they've got a +1/+1 counter from Undying, vice versa. And last but not least, the other commanders actually synergize with each other too. Satoru draws a bunch of cards in any variant of the deck. Tormod makes an excellent army that can either be sacrificed or sent into combat. Sakashima herself is an incredible threat, as a copy of your chosen commander, or, like the Master, you can ping-pong her between Persist and Undying. Gisa and Geralf can refresh tons of Persist and Undying creatures and let you replay your exploit creatures. Grimgrin is a sack outlet, beater, and removal spell all in one. Volo draws cards. Ancient of the Iron Throne gives you that extra reach, especially if you happen to be running the Tormod pair, where it's doubled. Lord of the Nazgul gives you even more token fodder, and the Master formed anew kinda sucks, but hey, at least he's a blink spell if you really want to stretch the definition of what a blink spell is. Now you know how they brew it, but why do they brew it?
Why?
Well, I think the appeal of this deck is obvious. Stroll up to a commander pod and roll a 7-sided die to pick your commander. I know that 7-sided dies don't exist, but I also know you've got an Alexa, which I've just triggered to roll a 7-sided die, and also buy this guy 100 boxes of Cheerios, please. It's like 7 decks in one. You could play whatever strategy you want without having to worry about carrying around a bunch of different decks. Or if one of these options really spoke to you, go ahead and supercharge it. Make your own variant of the deck and just knock them dead. Trust me, whatever you come up with, it's going to be a hell of a time. Now, if you liked seeing this deck and want to play it yourself, the full deck list is in the description. Check out my Discord below to talk about it, and thank you for watching.